never keep me down, I'm going. And if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up. I bet when I land, they gon' tell me it's luck again. See that I'm winning, it's harder to watch. I'm setting the stage, you should give me my props. You ain't got no soul, you lacking the spirit. You talk out your neck, I'ma show you I'm with it. I would really hate for you to sit and watch me win again and win again and win again. I know it's probably getting on me and when I'm sitting.
What's going on, everyone? Episode 58, part 2, I guess you could call it, of Locker Talk Live. I tried going live, but as you can see, I'm not at home. I'm over in my hometown for some Thanksgiving. Got my whole setup going on, so that way we can still do the show, and just having some internet issues. So we said, hey, let's just record this show and throw it up after. So we were recording it right now. It'll be up right after we're done recording. I'll go ahead and upload it. But still got Scotty on. So Scotty, let me bring you in this time. No buffering issues. Do make sure you're unmuted. And how are you doing, man?
I am unmuted. Hello, friends. Round 2 of this. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Thanksgiving week to everybody out there. Big week here in Texas high school football playoffs. Texas volleyball state championships happened here this last weekend too. So a ton going on here in the Texas sports high school world. So Josh, I'm doing great, brother. How are you doing?
Doing good. Of course, we have these streaming issues, but can't really always be perfect. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, especially when you're kind of, like I said, this is like kind of the skeleton crew of equipment, right? I mean, not using my best PC, having to rely on someone else's internet. So a whole bunch of things, but hey, we're here. We're ready to talk some football. Like you were saying on the live show that we had to cut short. We wish Shayna was on. I think she's trying to get her computer to work, but wish she was on to be able to talk the volleyball, because man, there was some great volleyball. Brandeis only losing 2 games the whole year. Only one of those teams was a Texas team, so they ended up being state champions in a 5-set thriller against Keller. It went back and forth. Either of those teams could have won it, but Brandeis walks away, and man, I think I had pretty much kind of been on their. I've been riding their bandwagon for quite some time this year, so glad to see them pull it out. Before we move on to football, any of the other volleyball matchups really catch your eye, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Brandeis, as you mentioned, winning over 40 games this year. Very impressive. We were big on Brandeis early. We called our shot. They ended up winning the state championship over a really good Keller team as well. So shout out to the San Antonio area and Brandeis community for bringing home the state championship hardware. Also, Lucas Lovejoy winning the 5A state championship. I mean, Lucas Lovejoy's that's a program. That is a program. Kind of reminds me, I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but of Katy football, just year in, year out, doesn't matter who the players are, they have established a program, a culture, a winning program and a winning culture there. It's their 3rd straight state championship. So very impressive, very difficult to do. So congrats to all those who won the state championship. And then I want to show some love to some private schools. You had Fort Bend Christian Academy winning the TAPS 5A state championship for the first time ever. So congrats to the Fort Bend Christian Eagles for winning their state championship.
Yeah, and Lucas Lovejoy may have even had a kind of just ho-hum season by their standards, losing 6 games, but that's one of the benefits of being a good program and consistently being in the playoffs is you have that playoff experience, and so when playoffs roll around, you know what to expect, you know how to handle it, and boy howdy did Lucas Lovejoy handle it. So, but let's move on to some Texas high school football, and of course, if Shayna jumps on, we'll circle back and talk some more some volleyball. But I kind of, since you yes, go ahead, Scott.
Also, St. Agnes Academy won the 6A state championship. H-Town represent, winning the 5A and 6A TAPS state championships. Let's talk some football.
Yeah, let's do it. So, I sent you a list of kind of questions to kind of mull over as we head into round 3 of the Texas high school football playoffs. And so I guess the first question for you is, what were the biggest surprises in round 2?
In my opinion, one of the biggest surprises came from the private school ranks, Second Baptist School taking down Regent School of Austin. Did not see that coming. I don't even know how many times Regents has knocked out Second Baptist, but I think it's like 5 or 6 years in a row. So the Eagles finally getting it done over Regent School of Austin, in my opinion, was one of the bigger shocks across the state. But while I thought that, Frisco Wakeland comes in and takes down Highland Park, going for two, upsetting the Scots of Highland Park. So I got to go with Wakeland taking down Highland Park as my biggest shock of this week. Josh, what stood out to you?
So what stood out to me is, and sorry, I'm looking at some stuff right now, but yeah, I would have to agree with Regents. I think we had them penciled. I mean, they were my pick to win it all. So cross one out for me right there. But that one's definitely was definitely one that I did not see coming. And then another one, of course, was Highland Park. Didn't see them, falling out of the playoffs early. I think some of y'all, I don't know who you had in that one, but I know some people had Highland Park, from our picks winning it all. That was definitely another upset. And, looking at, I got my little bracket here right now. Trying to take a little look here. There was one more I think I wanted to talk about, but I'm not really seeing it. But if I had to pick one, I think it would have to be Second Baptist over Regents. Not only it's not like some major upset, if you will, but it's kind of getting that monkey off their back, right? So that's one of the teams. It's kind of like Regents last year, right? Yes, technically Regents didn't beat Trinity Christian, but they had never been able to win that state championship because they're always playing Trinity Christian. They finally were able to win it last year, and now kind of Second Baptist is kind of taking that kind of spot of making that next step, and now it's, can they get all the way this year? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, it was interesting. Second Baptist had won their district championship for, I don't know, 8 years in a row, 9 years in a row, something like that, a very long time. This was the first year that Fort Bend Christian ever won the state championship. So that knocked Second Baptist down in the division. So they met Regents a round earlier than they have in the past few years. So I don't know if that played a factor in it, or maybe Regents overlooked second. I don't think that they did. I think Second Baptist just really came ready to play. They were tired of getting beat by them. So I don't think there's really any other way to put it. So now you got Fort Bend Christian Academy facing Second Baptist in the state semifinals here in Houston. They're playing at Rice on Saturday. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Again, they played each other 3 weeks ago for the district title. The FBCA won 24-21. And so Second Baptist, this is a revenge game for them. They had a revenge game against Regents, another revenge game against Fort Bend Christian, and whoever wins that will have an opportunity to play for a state championship.
Yeah, it's always good when you get to see those rematches, and will teams be able to adjust or not? And Second Baptist will obviously have to adjust because they didn't win last time. So, we'll see what happens.
Hasn't won state since 1999. That's a long time. I remember when that happened. I was like in elementary school when that happened because my sister was in high school at the time. So it's been a long time coming for Second Baptist, especially for a program that has been year in and year out as solid and as consistent as they are. So they got to get past their rival in the state semis. There's no doubt about it. FBCA and Second Baptist don't really like each other all that much, and especially after that district title game, it's going to be a dogfight. It really is.
Well, then they'll probably have Dallas Christian in the state finals, which that's no pushover. I would honestly probably favor Dallas Christian in that game if Second Baptist were to get that far. But go ahead, Scott. What were you going to say?
I kind of want to transition back to some public school football because that might interest people a little bit more. But a couple games here stood out for me. In D1, 6A D1, Region 1, how about Louisville taking down Arlington Martin? Louisville took down McKinney Boyd, then they take down Arlington Martin. So now Louisville going on a little bit of a run here, maybe an unexpected run. So now I want to give a shout out to Louisville for making it this far. They have South Lake Carroll in the next round. I don't know if many people are going to be picking Louisville to beat South Lake Carroll, but want to give a shout out to them. One of the more exciting games too is also Atascocita versus Ridgepoint. Atascocita versus Dickinson. Atascocita having a field goal late in the game to get past the Gators of Dickinson. So with the backup quarterback, they face Ridge Point in round 2. So congrats to Atascocita, because there were probably some people who weren't expecting them to make it this far, especially once their quarterback, Gavin Sessions, went down. So the other one in
real quick, because it seems like you're kind of looking ahead to round 3 a little bit. Let's circle back to round 2. I have a couple of questions for you for round 2.
Okay. Also, how about Bowie beating Smithson Valley? Didn't see that coming.
I mean, I said they could beat them. And here's why. I mean, who are their 2 losses? They lost to Lake Travis. They lost to Westlake. Bowie's not a bad team, right? So you look at their. You think you see Smithson Valley, you see them sitting there with the record they have. You're like, okay, well, this should be a win for them. Well, it's like, no, hold up. Bowie's not a bad team. I mean, like I said, their 2 losses are to Westlake and Lake Travis. So, it's Bowie's one of those sneaky.
Valley's one of the better teams in San Antonio.
They may be, but Bowie, you wouldn't think of it. Bowie's actually one of the better teams in Austin, but they just get overshadowed because they're in the same district as Lake Travis and Westlake, and they didn't win those games. So you see them sitting 3rd in district, and you're like, oh well, they're just 3rd in district. Well, they lost to Lake Travis and Westlake. They're a really good team. If they were in any other district, they may have finished 1st in their district. So people don't need to be sleeping on Bowie, and we really get to see what they're made of this week. They're facing arguably the number 1 team in San Antonio this week in Brennan. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk more about round 2 games, or not maybe games in general. But one of the questions I posed to you is, what do you think the theme in round 2 was? We talked how kind of the theme in round 1 was kind of maybe upset city, if you will. There were a bunch of upsets. What do you think the theme in round 2 was, Scott?
Let me make sure I was off mute there. I think the theme in round 2 was the teams that were probably favored to win took care of business. I mean, there were some scares on there. There was Bridgeland going down to the wire with College Park. But people expected Bridgeland to win that. So there was another really close game that stood out to me. Oh, Spring and Klein Kane. That went down to the wire too, 56-53. So round 2 felt to me, which of course there are some upsets there too, like El Paso Eastwood making it to the 3rd round of the playoffs, first time since 1950. So congrats to Eastwood on that. There are some Cinderella stories like that, but it seems to me that round 2 was more of the setup for some of the more anticipated games. I'm looking specifically at D1 Region 2. I mean, Duncanville, Spring, DeSoto, Westfield, give the people what they want. I mean, the great. Rockwall, Heath, and Tomball, Cedar Hill versus Bridgeland, too. So round 2 was more of the setup to get us to the anticipated matchups. Round 3 was the theme to me. What would you say the theme one in round 2 was for you, Josh?
You actually kind of said one of the words that's part of my phrase, and so you said there's some scares, and so I had kind of thought of round 2 is kind of the jump scare round, right? So jump scares, it's quick. And it gets you to go, right? And so there were a few of those, right? I mean, obviously Highland Park losing, Cal Allen losing to Fredericksburg in 4A. There are a few games, obviously Second Baptist beating Regents. There were a few games that made you go, but then for the most part, everything was pretty much how you expected it to go. Didn't get to, I wish Shana was on so I could, and maybe that's why her computer is having quote unquote issues, right? Because Pleasanton beat Beeville. So that's the, little shout out right there, because that's their 3rd time in school history, only the 3rd time in school history making it to round 3. They made it to, because back in the 2007 was their furthest, and they made it to the state semis, but the state semis was round 4, so they had an extra round between now and then. So, but yeah, so the theme for me in round 2 was jump scares, right? There were a few games out there that there were some upsets. Obviously, I think probably the biggest 2 is Regents and Highland Park. But other than that, I think everything else was mostly how you expected it to go. And now, hey, here we are. I mean, obviously, the last game finished yesterday. the whole Andrews Springtown situation with the Andrews ISD band bus being in that accident. I think if I read correctly, no one was hurt, thankfully. So they had to play yesterday. I think Springtown won, and so now they'll play Saturday. So a little quick turnaround for them, but it's just things like that happen every now and then, and thankfully no one was hurt in that situation. So, but let's move to round 3 now, and let me pull up my little.
Quick.
Yes, go ahead.
Real quick, the only caveat to that, 5A, it's, D2 5A and D1 5A are very interesting to me. One of the, I would say an upset was Port Neches Groves taking down Montgomery. I mean, Montgomery was kind of humming this year. And then Port Neches Groves kind of squeaking into the playoffs here with that 4th spot, making it to round 3, playing Texas High next time in the next round. And then in Region 3, 5A D1, there were some tough matchups. I mean, you had Fort Bend Hightower versus Georgetown, Manville versus Weiss, Paytown versus Manor. I mean, those were a few games that I really didn't know who to pick. You had Paytown advance, and then Manville beat a really good Weiss team there too. Same with Fort Bend Hightower. I mean, Fort Bend Hightower had a couple fumble returns for touchdowns. So that was the game changers in those games there. So I would say the only caveat is 5A D1 Region 3 was a kind of a bloodbath, and it turns into more of a bloodbath moving forward too.
Yeah, although and I guess this kind of leads to the next point. What are the most interesting stories in round 3? And I think obviously Region 3 of 5A D1 is one of them, because you have the chance for possibly a Paytown Manville rematch or a Paytown Hightower rematch. No offense to Cedar Park, but if I had to put my money on that game, I think Paytown is walking out that one with a win. And so I think we're looking at it.
Park has shocked some people though, making it this far.
I think they definitely have
their coach and their quarterback. I mean,
yeah, they definitely have.
Still a good team.
They definitely have, but I mean, you do look at their opponents, and Buda Johnson. Yeah, they were I think 9-1, but second year program hadn't had the playoff run. Hadn't been in the playoffs before, so Cedar Park had them there, and then I think again the playoff experience came into play here. But I think now in round 3 you're going to see a Paytown team that a team they really haven't seen before. I mean, I think Manor, the team that just lost to Paytown, they're the team they beat Cedar Park, and if I'm not mistaken, or Weiss did, I can't remember, or both of them did. So, and then both of those teams are sitting at home now. Cedar Park's still in it, credit to them, but I think Paytown is just another class. We'll see. I could be wrong, but that's definitely one. Obviously, I'm looking at the brackets here. Yeah, I got my brackets here. 6A D1. I think North Shore is just going to be waiting for Ridge Point or Atascocita. Again, I think Bowie Brennan is going to be a really good game. That's going to be one of those that you're going to want to pay attention to. DeSoto, Westfield, obviously that one's going on at the Alamo Dome. Duncanville and Spring, and then like you said, South Lake Carroll and Louisville. So yeah, I think 6A D1 out of all the brackets, if you really look at them. That one, there's good games in every region. What about you?
I mean, D1 Region 2. Golly, I mean, talk about again just a blood. It's like the Coliseum. Everybody enters the ring, only one man survives. I mean, Duncanville versus Spring. That's going to be a great matchup. It's a big travel game for Spring. It's playing up in Frisco too, and DeSoto and Westfield. Both teams got to travel there. They're playing at the Alamo Dome. Man, I'm gonna have to do some more research on that before I pick a game, or pick those teams. But that's gonna be wild. I expect South Lake Carroll to advance. Euless Trinity, I don't want to sleep on them, but Allen might be favored on that. I mean, 2 good teams. North Shore, Tompkins. Okay, Region 3, I still expect North Shore to win. Bowie is interesting to see if they're going to face up against Lake Travis. As you mentioned, they lost earlier this year. But Brennan might have something to say about that. But I expect Travis to play for the Region 4 championship, at least in D1.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a bunch of stuff right now. I'll give you 1 second here. Yeah, and I mean that Bowie game, 52-21 for against Lake Travis that they lost. Bowie did so. One I'm really interested in, just from an aspect of a rematch, is Denton Ryan and Longview. So they played in week one, and Denton Ryan won that game fairly easy, 40-7. But that's week one, right? And we always talk about who teams are in week one. They're not who they are, especially in the playoffs. And so I don't know if Longview is going to win this game, but I'm interested to see if it's more competitive than it was, and if it is, and then Longview has a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I mean, kind of recapping or going back to this last weekend, College Station might have had one of the more impressive performances, taking down Frisco Lone Star 55-21. That College Station team is for real. Now, I think they would have had credit to Wakeland for getting past Highland Park 29-28, but I expect College Station to keep it going, which has a potential matchup against Denton Ryan or Longview. The Longview, especially after that week one loss, don't you know, they want another piece of Denton Ryan. So that's going to be a really good one to keep an eye out for in 5A.
Yeah, and speaking of that, yeah, College Station, very impressive. I mean, it wasn't so much impressive that they won. It was impressive of how they won. That was a dominating, just gut punch of a game. And, they're my pick to win it all. I'm glad right now, anyways, I'm glad I did, because they're really showing that they have what it takes to potentially go all the way. So, and then, hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. It's a little bit of a homer. It's a little bit of a homer one. Hey, go. That's fine. But Pleasanton and Fredericksburg, that's going to be an interesting game. I mean, you look at the two teams, and they actually do have some similar opponents. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Fredericksburg played Lampasas to end the season, and they lost. And Pleasanton had Lampasas in the first round, and they won. So, you look at common opponents, and you're saying, okay, but then again, Fredericksburg beat Cal Allen, and I don't know if a lot of people had really circled that game as a win for Fredericksburg. So a very impressive win for them, and I'm looking at it right now. So the last game of the season, Fredericksburg beat Lampasas, and the next week Pleasanton beats Lampasas, one of their, I think that's their only, if I'm not mistaken, similar opponent. Looks like it, yeah. So, very, very interesting game on this one. I think this game can go either way. Of course, I'm rooting for my hometown, but we'll see what happens.
It is very interesting. Hey, I also want to give a shout out to the Vandergriff Vipers. Big win over Cibolo Steel. 38-0. Big win there. So I would like to see Vandergrift and Westlake Region 4 final.
Well, that's what it's looking like. Don't sleep on Edinburgh Vela, but it's looking like a Westlake Vandergrift Region 4 final right there, and that one would be an interesting one indeed. And then another Austin team, I'm just going to throw this out there, is in 582, and that's Rouse. They have a really good game against Liberty Hill coming up, and Rouse, I think actually Liberty Hill beat them last year to continue on on their state semifinal run. So very good game on that one as well. Any other games you want to mention before we get out of here?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. You know what could be a trap game? I'm calling this now. It could be. I doubt it, but it could be. C.E. King versus Katy in Region 3. Region 3 is dominated by North Shore and Katy, or at least they have been in the past. So, and I expect that to happen today, but C.E. King is very good. They have a really good running back, Gerald Wembley there, who's just running all over the field. It could be a trap game. I hope Katy isn't looking too far ahead. Coach Gary Joseph there is really good at telling his guys when to week and not look too far ahead, but that could potentially be a trap game. So keep an eye on that one.
Well, there are a ton of good games, folks, and eat your turkey tomorrow, or not tomorrow, or if you want to eat some tomorrow, go for it. But eat your turkey on Thursday. Watch the Cowboys hopefully rebound from their loss this past Sunday, and then on Friday, go watch some football. We got a lot of good games coming up. Like we talked about some of them here, we didn't get to all of them. I mean, there's some in the 2A and 1A realms that we didn't even get to. I think Strawn is who they're playing. They got a really tough test ahead of them. So Go watch some football, folks. It's going to be good. Round 3. You don't want to miss it. Scotty, before we get out of here, go ahead and plug us up.
Yeah, everybody go follow us. Go check out our website, vypesatx.com. Great stories everywhere. Also, while you're at it, sign up for VYPE Insider Premium Content Exclusive interviews, videos, the whole 9 yards. So go sign up for VYPE Insider today, $2.99 a month. Or if you want to pay annually, breaks down to $1.99, $24 a year. Like I said, I've seen Matt Malatesta spend more money on that at Starbucks every day. I digress. Go follow us on our social media channels at VYPE Houston on Instagram and Twitter, at VYPE Texas on Facebook. Really, if you type in VYPE, whatever region that you're in, you'll find us. VYPE DFW, VYPE ATX, VYPE SATX. We're all over the place. So go follow us there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast as well. Give us 5 stars. Give us a like, or rather, smash that like button on YouTube and subscribe to some awesome content highlights that we're dropping throughout the playoffs.
Other than that, have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We will be back on Monday. That's right. We'll be back on Monday with our live show. I'll be back home, so no major issues. Hopefully, will arise like it did today. But until then, again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Go Cowboys, and we'll see you at the games.